Welcome back to day one of Firebug. This is the rehearsed version, and it picks up where we left off yesterday with regards to the planner that we're cloning. We're cloning planner with React and Firebase and whatever other libraries that we need. So planner.now.sh, we've got a basic to-do list going, as that's where we left it, and we're going to finish today with a fully functioning clone. Fully functioning being a tricky word to assume, but I'm pretty proud of the fact that we're going to get all this done in this session alone. So that's fairly productive. Let's get started. So what we're going to do is first we're going to convert a real-time database into Firestore. That's the better version of the Firebase real-time database. I explain more in the rehearsal video, so if you want to check that out. If not, let's just go ahead and actually just do it. Let's do it. The other part that I'm going to have to do is reset this because this is my completed version. And you can always pick up where we start from these videos by going to code, by going to our repo and checking out the relevant day. So right now we're starting from day 0, which is basically our master branch right now, but the master will move by the time you see this. So this is my current master branch, and I'm going to bring us up to speed with all the good stuff that we want to do. Okay, so the first thing on our agenda is to move to Firestore. So Firestore is the better thing. Basically, not everything is stored in object format or JSON format. We have the concept of arrays and dates and a whole bunch of other things. Again, check the other raw video for more. But in here, we're just going to do the conversion. So step 1 in conversion, React Firebase, which is the original library that we used in the first video, does not support Firestore. So I had to publish my own library. Little shameless plug over here. But, you know, it's essentially the same thing, which is just cloning that API and hopefully making it usable for Firestore without too much cognitive burden. So while that's being added, let's figure out how to configure it. You're going to have to require Firebase over up in here. And again, this is all from the docs, or you can also just copy it from the README in this npm package over here. And the other thing that you're going to want to declare is this line, the Firestore line, after the Firebase app has been initialized. I think that's about it. So now that we've installed React Firebase Firestore, we want to switch over to that library. This provider takes a new variable called Firestore, and it does pretty much the same thing apart from that. We're going to go over here and switch this over as well. This connect function works exactly the same way, but because we expose the API of Firestore, they're all named slightly different things. So instead of push, you call add, and so on and so forth. Here's a handy little conversion library. So here we call remove. It's now called delete. Instead of push, we now call add. And instead of, well, update is still update, so that's not changing. The last thing that we have to take care of is for our objects. So because things are represented as arrays instead of objects, we're going to need to change this from object.entries to-dos to just to-dos. And instead of destructuring from the result of object.entries, we can have item in here, and then const key equals to item.internal ID. So that's approximately what we have. Let's go ahead and npm start this. so we can actually see our plan in action. Bum 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 bum. The loading music is free. Bum 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 bum. You can see that pop up over here. This for some reason takes a while to refresh, or you just have to manually refresh anytime you add a new collection. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but it's not super huge of a hurdle for me. So again, I maybe emphasize this too much, but this is different from the real-time database in the sense that you have layers, alternating layers of collections, which are arrays of objects, and then documents, which are just objects. And then each document can itself have a collection, and each collection can itself have a document, and it goes a few layers down, I think 20-something layers, which is more than enough for most operations. You should normalize if you get that deep. Okay, so we have completed that first bit of transitioning from Firebase Real-Time Database to Firestore. That was not too bad. Now we want to do the 4-panel layout. So what I call the 4-panel layouts: this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing. Right now we just have a single panel layout. And that's kind of dragging on me. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm also going to introduce an idea of current date. So we're just going to refactor this, right? So currently everything is kind of squished into one main component. And what we're going to do is like split that out a little bit. So I'm going to take the logo out. Don't need the logo anymore. You've done your job, your duty. And in here, I'm going to have a concept of date. Yeesh. This is going to be different from my rehearsal. Current date, new date. We're going to use moment.js in a bit, so don't hold me to this, but today is gonna be the day when I'm gonna give it back to you. Right now, you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. Is that what it is? To date string? I never date to date string. Yeah, wow, all right. Turns out I actually know JavaScript. And then I'm gonna give it to, this is just good practice, so I don't keep retyping stuff. Although I've already wasted more time on it than strictly need to. All right, so that has the top level current date, and that will change according to whatever. We'll need some sort of state management library if that gets much more complicated. And this main thing, right, I just want it to be a kind of loose wrapper for the 4 things that are going to be over here, right? App is the full app. It includes the header, and then and then the main is like kind of like the 4 panel layout. Jesus, I can't say anything right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone this, and I'm going to call this a to-do list. Because the other thing that you should notice is this is reusable. Like this component is not so different from this component, right? Like they both have things that you can add. You can check stuff off, and you can move stuff back and forth between each other. I mean, they're very similar. So we should make that reusable. So I'm going to call that a to-do list component, and just have this side by side. And I'm just going to clone the whole thing over right now because I don't know what I need to keep. Okay, so for the main, I don't care about any of these handlers right now. Don't care. I do care about the thing that I just passed in, which is current date. And that's my prop for main over here, main. And then apart from that, I don't care about all this. And then I just care about left panel, what's the proper name? Routines, And then notes, backlog, and calendar. Notes, backlog, calendar. Don't care. Care. Good. And then the last thing I want to do, put CSS in because I am a self-respecting front-end developer. And I'm going to use CSS Grid because I like CSS Grid. Layout 4. Read up on CSS Grid if you don't know about it because it's very handy. And let's have a look at our app. Now we have everything nice and tidy. Why is this thing so fat? It's something I ask myself every day. Okay, header. You have a height of 150 pixels. You don't need 150 pixels. What are you doing? Oh, that's much better. You need 20 pixels? All right. Let's just get rid of the 120 pixels because that is obnoxious. Right. There we go. We have 4 panels. I'm happy to leave it at that. Oh, I mean, we need to put our to-do list back, right? Because that would be nasty if I forgot. Okay. To-do list goes in here. So closing. To-do list also goes in here. Now I need some variation of what these things are. So I'm going to call this is backlog and kind of leave it at that. So that in here I can differentiate the things I need to display for this backlog. Whoa, look at that. I have 2 exact things on here. So I can differentiate between what I show here versus what I show here. But I think that's, this is moving really quickly because I have practice. So that's the 4-panel layout done. Then we need a working calendar view, and then we need to be able to put to-dos from backlog to specific date and back. Okay. How I'm going to do this, I am going to need a date picker. I'm not going to write this just yet. I think this will be the focus of a future episode. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to need a date picker. Fortunately, React date picker is a thing. That's one of the hardest components you can ever write. So if you can, try to avoid writing it yourself. Except that we're about to write it ourselves in a future episode. So I guess I'm not very good at following my own advice. We also need to, this depends on moment JS as well. So I'm going to have to import moment after this thing is done. And in the meantime, I can import this stuff into my app.js or main.js or main.js. Here we go. Do I want to import this in my main.js? Oh, this is hard. All right, I'm gonna have to split this up because I have my date at the top level of the app, which wasn't how I practiced it, but I'm just gonna roll with it. That's just how we roll in Firebug. We're very flexible with these things, and that's a good thing. So over in here, instead of saying new date, I'm going to give a moment object. And that's just much better for handling things. But you're also going to see me trip up a little bit on these because I always forget that my date is no longer a date object, but it's a moment object, which I have to convert. Then I also need a change handler, which is essentially this, like it just says date. So handle date change, current date. yeah, that's it. That's about it. Okay, so I'm gonna pass this into main, because why not? I also have to rewrite this to the auto-binding syntax of ES6. I obviously assume you know ES6, even though it looks like I don't. Stop handle change. Okay, I hopefully haven't messed it up too badly, because we're about to pass this in to the date picker. Let's pick the date picker. Put it in the calendar section. And I'm going to call this handle date change. I'm going to call this cut date. Let's see if Kraken. Let's see what's. Oh, this always gets me. App.js 922. Thank you, create React app. Oh, you want me to check this all the way up? I mean, like, why? Like, why does it matter to you so much that I follow your rules? Like, just let me do what I want. Let me live my life. ToDate string is not a function. Ah, there we go. That's started screwing me up already. So I need to set things as to date. Very good. Nothing's changed except now I have this nice little date picker over here. And you can see the top level response to the child changing. So that's very good. Now I need this to be responsive to date. And I think the dates that I'm submitting here are the wrong type. So if I look in here, I'm going to have to reload this. I'm not sure what's going on here. I haven't had this issue very often, but I'm just having it today, and I don't know how to solve it. Probably just need to do some like crazy reboot. So this is a string. That's no bueno. That's an adjustment I did because Realtime Database did not have a date type. So whereas this does. So I should not be sending them strings anymore. I should be sending them dates. So let's go rectify that. That's in our new to-do list component. Let me just kill that for consistency. Hopefully this is big enough for you to see it. What do we want to do here? We want to not do this, essentially. I think we also want to just give the current date. So to-do list right now has main.js passing it stuff. We probably want to know what current date is. You see this passing of props to props? That's called prop drilling, and that's not a good thing. We're going to use the new context API in a future episode, but for right now, we're just going to pass some props because that's what smart people do. And instead of passing a new date, I'm just going to say props update. I think that's all I need to, well, I have to say current date is not a real date, so I need to do to date. Current date, as I always warn myself, is a moment type. So I need to convert it to a date for it to store properly. So I'm sorry, but I have to kill you because you have the wrong format and I don't want to see you again. Now it's empty. I'm going to add stuff. These are the exact same components, so obviously they're both showing the same thing. But now when I reload, I should see on the back end of this backend as a service thing, something of a timestamp. That's good. I can do a lot more of a timestamp without parsing things from strings, which is very prone to error. So that's very good. So on the notes, I should see, right, over here, on the notes, I should see something, whatever corresponds to this present day, April 3rd. And then if I go to April 4th, that disappears. I can move stuff out of it. So essentially, stuff in the backlog has no assigned date, and stuff in the notes does have an assigned date, and it happens to match with the current date. So that's the behavior that we have to match. And basically nothing should show in the backlog right now because everything has an assigned date. So for backlog, if isBacklog is true, right? So down over here, we have two versions of ToDo List, one with backlog supplied and one without. So if isBacklog is true, then first of all, I do not then I submit a null, if not submit a date. So that's a very easy thing for the add function. And then if I should also not display it if backlog is true. So over here, I need a filter. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, filter item. And this is bad. Okay. So if isBacklog is true, do one thing. If backlog is not true, do another thing. The question is, what are those two things? So backlog is true, then filter for the items where item.date is not null, is null. Okay. Then only want those items with date equals null. And then if it is not a backlog, then it is a current date, then we need to match it somehow with the current date, right? So we need to do item.date. And here we need a helper function because this is going to be a date time string. So if you look over here, it's an exact time. We don't really care about the time, we just care about the date. So I'm going to use a conversion thing to do that. And I'm going to steal that because that's just not very interesting. I'm going to steal that from my pre-prepared code because I don't want to write it again. And it's a fairly simple function. This is the function. Basically, it compares A to B, and it compares the first 10 characters of A to the first 10 characters of B if A is not null. And that's a fairly decent compare dates functionality. So I'm just going to chuck in item.date over here and current date all over there. I think this is a date time type, and this is a moment type, so I need to convert this as well. Match current date. Isn't that nice? That's nice. So this should display accordingly. Nothing should show up here. And when I add things, new backlog, that should only show up here. Let's check the back end of this thing. One of these things should be null. Yep, that's a null date, and that's the new backlog. And then the other things have an assigned date, and we don't touch them. When we change our dates, we're going to see those disappear, but this will stay. So that's fantastic, and we're almost done. I just need to have an ability to transfer things back and forth. So that will incorporate a new method, and it's going to be very similar to check item because I'm just updating one field. So I'm going to just say toggle backlog, and I'm going to say I'm just going to need the key. And I'm going to toggle the date. So once again, if whatever, you know what I'm doing here. If it's a backlog, toggle it to the current date. So this logic's kind of reversed, right? It's interesting that it's reversed. Huh. So if it's not backlog, toggle it to a null, which makes it a backlog. So to use this toggle backlog, I need a wrapper function as well, because I don't know why. This is not strictly necessary. I don't know. It's just nicer because I can refer to like this dot something instead of this dot props dot something. And that's probably just, you know what? Let's rewrite it, because I don't need any of this. So instead of, I mean, they're just poorly named too. Like delete item. Why am I naming them differently? Toggle backlog. Okay, check item, check item. Good. So this becomes delete to do, and this becomes toggle backlog. This becomes check item. Right, that's a lot of methods taken out. Well, this dot. Don't need this anymore. Need this anymore. Need handle submit. I do need handle submit. Good, and then I just need to implement toggle backlog, which is essentially I do want to have a little special logic in here. So if it is backlog, show the left emoji. And if it's not backlog, show the right emoji. I think I need to put these in strings. Don't quote me on that. Critico likes it, which means it's correct. So boom, let's shift things in and out. Check them off, move them around. Let's have some stuff on April 5th, because it's probably already there by the time you see this. And that's it. I think we have a working clone of the core sort of notes and backlog functionality that's going on in here. Well, that's it. Thanks very much for watching. Be sure to leave me some comments. I'm also reachable on Twitter, trying to get some exposure that way, Twitter at Firebug fan. And I've also just set up this new channel for discussion at my community on spectrum.chat. So just go ahead to spectrum.chat and /Firebug. That's it. I'll see you at the next episode. Bye.